Hello friends, and welcome back to another video, and a special big hello if you are new. Clementine also says hello from the background. Today I thought I would share with you some of the books that are on my fall TBR. I really struggle with TBRs because I want to keep them, and it's like a goal that I have to check off. So if I leave any books unfinished, it really bothers me. So I don't do monthly TBRs, and I try not to set TBRs that are like overly ambitious. I've found that if I just pick 5 or 6 books that really fit the ambiance, the vibes, the aesthetic of the season, that works really well for me. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Two of these books are upside down. Here is my fall stack, or my fall hopefuls. I have 6 books here. I'm gonna start with the first one that I picked out. Every year I like to read a classic that is like gothic or a mystery, or just kind of fits the vibes of like spooky season. I'm not a big like thriller person or like horror person. I hate scary movies, that kind of thing, but I've found that classics have just a little bit of those elements without it being too like scary for me, or at least in my experience of the ones that I've read. But it still is nice to have a good one around like Halloween. So this year I chose to reread Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë. I know that the cover looks like it's quite springy and fun and like Jane Austen-y, but she's not. I actually checked on Goodreads because I think this is my second time reading Jane Eyre, and it said that the last time that I had read it was in 2015, so almost 10 years ago, which blew my mind because I feel like I vividly remember every detail of the story. Like, it has stuck with me so much over the years. But for those of you who don't know, Jane Eyre is kind of a coming of age story. It tells the story of Jane. She is an orphan. It starts off with her living with her aunt in an estate, and her aunt and her cousins are quite mean and hateful to her. I do believe she goes into like a girls' home or a school, and she studies to become a governess, and she is hired by Mr. Rochester to go work at Thornfield Hall, I believe it is, as a governess for his ward. It's been almost 10 years, so that might not be the best description. Obviously, Jane and Mr. Rochester do have a smidgen of a romance going on, and Jane begins to discover that life and the things that are happening at Thornfield Hall probably aren't as they appear, and that something a little sinister might be going on. This book is so good. It is so ahead of its time for when it was written as well. Jane is one of my favorite heroines in classic literature, and I truly cannot wait to reread this. I'm so excited. I'll probably start it a little ways into October, but like I almost just want to pick it up right now. I'm looking forward to it that much. And I can't wait to watch some of the adaptations with it. I've only ever seen the one with Michael Fassbender. I think it was made in 2011. And so I'll definitely be rewatching that because he's who I picture as Mr. Rochester. But if you have any other recommendations of adaptations that I should watch, please let me know because I would really like to watch those as well. All right, switching gears a little bit, the next book that I have is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I've not read any of her books, but I've seen them everywhere, and I actually borrowed this from my friend Lakin, who has a YouTube channel, and it's tabbed, so I can't wait to like see what stood out to her as I read it. This says, sometimes the worst day of your life happens and you have to figure out how to live after it, for Clementine West, which, I don't know, I love that our like main character is named Clementine, because obviously that name has a special place in my heart with my little Clementine back here. So basically she's burying her head in work. She's being practical and forgetting silly things. Clementine wants to stay grounded and keep her heart safe. She moves into her late aunt's apartment and finds a strange man standing in the kitchen, a man with kind eyes, a southern drawl, and a taste for lemon pies. I'm sorry, I don't know why I can't talk today. Her well-laid plans begin to fall apart because he's the type of man who, before it all, she would have fallen head over heels for, and she still might. Except he exists in the past, 7 years in the past to be exact, and she, quite literally, lives 7 years in his future. Again, I think that this is just going to be really fun. Lakin said that it was set in fall, so I think that it'll be good for the season. I'll probably read this one really soon to just kind of get me in that fall, autumn mood. And I think it's I've been reading a lot of like rom-com-y romance books for summer, so I think this is a good book to kind of help like morph into that transition from summer to fall, and some of the other books that I have on my TBR as well. Next, I have The Rules of Magic by Alice Hoffman. I read Practical Magic last fall and I did like it. I had very different expectations than what the book was, so I was slightly disappointed, but I wanted to go ahead and kind of continue on with the series. So this is the prequel to Practical Magic, and I kind of think that I will like it more just because I have a better idea of what to expect, and this one sounds more of what I had expected Practical Magic to be, maybe? I don't know. But anyway, it is following the Owens' families. They have a curse that began in the 1600s when Maria Owens was accused of witchery for loving the wrong man. Hundreds of years later, in 1960s New York, on the cusp of an ever-changing world, Susanna Owens knows that her 3 children are dangerously unique. So there is Franny with skin as pale as milk and blood red hair, shy and beautiful Jet, who can read other people's thoughts, and charismatic Vincent, who began looking for trouble on the day he could walk. So Susanna sets down rules for her children: no walking in the moonlight, no red shoes, no wearing black, no cats, no crows, no candles, no books about magic. And most importantly, never ever fall in love, but her children, being Owenses, never adhere to the rules. I am very, again, excited for this one. I feel I will enjoy it more than I enjoyed Practical Magic, like I said, because I just have a better idea of what this one's going to be about. I really love Alice Hoffman and her writing, and I've really kind of discovered I really enjoy magical realism. It makes life feel exciting to me. I don't know, to think that there could be magic like that in the world. So I am very excited for this one, and I can't wait to read it. Next, I have a cozy mystery, which is a Shady Hollow mystery, which is Cold Clay. This is the second book in the series. So this one it's autumn in Shady Hollow. I read the first one, I think it's just called Shady Hollow, last fall, and I really liked it. I associate like forest animals and as with like fall, and I love books where animals live as people. That's just like, I don't know, I think it comes from loving Winnie the Pooh as a kid. I don't know. But it makes me really happy. Although I was quite shocked because the first Shady Hollow was a lot more like viciously murderous than I had expected. But anyway, so we're in Shady Hollow and the residents are looking forward to the harvest feast, but then they discover the bones of a moose. So soon, the owner of Joe's Mug is pulled from the coffee shop and questioned by the police about the night his wife walked out of his life. I'm so sorry that I can't talk today. So it seems like an open and shut case, but Vera Vixen doesn't believe that Gentle Joe is a killer, and she'll do anything to prove his innocence, even if it means digging into secrets her neighbors would rather leave in the grave. So this sounds so good. I really did enjoy the first Shady Hollow, so I'm really looking forward to this one. I love that it's set in autumn too. I feel like this is a book that I can kind of hold off until like November, so it'll probably be one of the last books that I read on my fall TBR, but I'm very excited for it. I think that there are 5 of these books out, and honestly, I might end up picking up the 3rd one and reading it this fall too. In my head, there were only 3, so I was going to read the next 2 and then be done or caught up with the series. But now there are 5, and that feels a lot more intimidating to me. But we will be reading this soon. I really liked Joe. I think that's his name, the moose, who owns Joe's mug. I really liked him in the first series, or the first book, so I was really sad to find out that he's like being accused of murder in this one. So definitely hoping that that's not really the take that it goes with, but again, very excited for this one. And also the cover of these are just stunning. Next I have The Fires of Autumn by, hang on, Irène Némirovsky. I'm really sorry. I watched a couple of videos to try to pronounce her name right. She was Ukrainian and French, and it's just not a language either that I've studied, so I do apologize if I butchered that. That was not my intention. I read her book, Sweet Francoise? Sweet... I can't. I read it. I will pop it up on the screen, and I loved it. So this is a book that I found at Half Price Books sometime after I had read that for the first time. I've read it 2 or 3 times, and this has been sitting on my shelf for a very long time. So since it has autumn in the title, it just kind of made sense to go ahead and read it this autumn since I've had it for so long. Basically, it starts off at the end of the First World War. Bernard returns from the trenches a changed man. He's broken by the unspeakable horrors he has witnessed, and he becomes addicted to the lure of wealth and success. He wallows in the corruption and excess of post-war Paris, and when his lover abandons him, Bernard turns to a childhood friend for comfort and stability. For 10 years, he lives the good life, but when the drums of war begin to sound again, everything around which he has rebuilt himself starts to crumble, and the future of his marriage and of his country suddenly become terribly uncertain. I'm really excited for this one. I've not read a really good historical fiction in a while, and I know that this is probably considered historical fiction, but at the time that it was written, it was probably not quite as removed in the past because it was published in 1957. But I am really looking forward to this. Like I said, I loved the other book so much, and I loved her writing, so I'm very excited to, you know, try another book from her and see what I think of it. And lastly, the book that I have is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Fun fact, I bought this in hardcover at Barnes & Noble a couple weekends ago because I knew I wanted to read it this fall. And literally that next Tuesday, the paperback came out. And I much prefer a paperback, especially to read on. So I was a little disappointed, and I truly thought about taking this back and like exchanging it, but we're just gonna stick with it. And there's also a cover that I don't know, it's like if it's a special edition or what the special edition is, but it's like a rainbowy look with the design. It's very pretty, but I feel like this probably fits the book better. But anywho, this is a kind of retelling or take on David Copperfield. I've not read David Copperfield yet, but I have read a few of Dickens's work and I really enjoyed it, so I'll definitely bump that up on my list. So this is the story of a boy born to a teenage mother in a single wide trailer with no assets beyond his dead father's good looks and a fierce talent for survival. In a plot that never pauses for breath, relayed in his voice, Demon braves the perils of a foster care, child labor, schools, athletic success, addiction, through it all, he reckons with his own invincibility in a popular culture where even the superheroes have abandoned rural people in favor of cities. Then it talks about how David Copperfield was Dickens's experience as a survival of institutional poverty and its damages to children in society. These problems have yet to be solved in ours. So, we shall see. I've not read any books by her, but she is someone who I want to read because she is from Appalachia and I am as well. So her books are, you know, books that I've heard a lot of people talk about and ones that I'm very interested in to I guess, kind of represent like the culture that I have come from and grown up in. So I am very excited for it, but I do think that it will be a little dark. But we will see. Whew. Anyway, that sums up the books that I want to read this fall. Thank you so much for being here and listening to me babble on about books. Please leave any recommendations down below, or thoughts, spoiler free, on these books, or books that you plan on reading this fall. I feel quite winded after finishing this video because my husband had to call me like 2 or 3 times and I had to keep like restarting recording. So I'm just like, oh, we did it. We made it through. So hopefully I wasn't too like all over the place. But anywho, I hope that you guys have the best day, and thank you again so much for being here, and I will see you in my next video, which I think will be some of the spooky classics that I've read and the ones that I recommend to you guys. So until then, bye.